Have you ever just felt completely drained by someone else's problems? Or, looked at the world and wondered why some people seem so numb to things that are obviously wrong? Well, today we are going to solve a really fascinating puzzle. Why connecting with other people can feel so incredibly hard. And I promise you, the answer is not what you think.
So let's just start with that big question. Why does empathy, this thing we're all told is so important, why does it so often feel like a chore? Why do we sometimes get totally overwhelmed by it and other times honestly find it really difficult to even care at all? It's a feeling we have all had, right?
Well, it turns out the answer has almost nothing to do with your heart or your moral character. It's actually a biological issue, and it's rooted deep inside your brain's own little accounting department. Yeah, it is all about your brain's hidden budget.
Okay, so let's dive into this because it's fascinating. To really get empathy, you have to understand your brain's number one job. And it's not thinking, it's not even feeling. Your brain's primary mission, above absolutely everything else, is just keeping you alive by managing your body's energy.
The scientific term for this is allostasis, but the neuroscientist Lisa Feldman Barrett has a much better name for it: body budgeting. Seriously, just think of your brain as a financial planner for your body. It is constantly making predictions and moving resources around to meet your needs before you're even aware you have them.
And this is a really simple way to look at it. Just like a bank account, your body's budget has deposits, things like getting a good night's sleep or eating a nutritious meal. And it has withdrawals, like stress from work or a tough workout. Every single thing you experience is basically an economic transaction happening inside you.
Okay, so your brain is an accountant. But how does this biological accounting system actually create the emotions that you feel every single moment of your life? Well, that's where things get really interesting.
So here's the kicker. Feelings aren't these random things that just happen to you. They're basically status reports from your brain about your internal energy account. That feeling of calm and pleasure, that's your brain saying, hey, our budget is in surplus. That feeling of anxiety or dread, that's a low balance alert. And this is a perfect example. You know that feeling when you're about to give a speech? Your brain predicts you're going to need a burst of energy, so it makes a big withdrawal. Your heart rate goes up, cortisol starts pumping. You don't consciously feel those individual biological changes. You just experience the end result as a feeling, like anxiety or maybe even excitement. Now, this internal budgeting system, it doesn't just affect how you feel about yourself. It has a massive impact on how you connect with other people. Because as it turns out, empathy is one of the most expensive things your brain can possibly do. It is biologically costly. See, to empathize, your brain has to run this really complex simulation, spending precious energy to try and predict what someone else is feeling. And here's the key part. It is neurologically cheaper to do this for people who are like us. Trying to understand someone with totally different life experiences, that's harder, and it costs a lot more energy, creating what we can call a neurological empathy gap. And to see just how high the stakes are with these empathy gaps, let's look at a really powerful case study from the work of psychologist Dr. Shungu Magudza. This is Malachi, a Year 5 student. On the surface, his teachers just saw a disruptive, angry kid. They judged his behavior, They labeled him as someone who would lash out for no reason, or wasn't trying. They saw all the withdrawals from his account, but they had no idea what his balance was. But science tells a completely different story. Malachi was dealing with grief, with hunger, with trauma. His biological resources were completely gone. He wasn't misbehaving. His body budget was bankrupt. His brain was just stuck in survival mode, with zero energy left for anything else.
So this all raises a really important question, right? How can we understand our own capacity for empathy in any given moment? How can we know when our own budget is just too low to connect? Well, thankfully, there's a framework that can help us map it all out.
This is called the 6 Stages Framework, and you can just think of it like a thermometer for your empathy. It maps our willingness to spend our precious energy on others, all the way from a hostile state at the very bottom, where our budget is totally depleted, up to a courageous state at the top, where we've got plenty of energy to spare. And what's so incredibly useful here is seeing how our own internal thoughts, the stuff we say to ourselves, line up perfectly with these clinical stages. You know that thought, not my issue? That corresponds directly to stage 1, which is called detached. This framework just makes the abstract science of empathy feel really personal and something we can all recognize.
So down at the lowest end of the spectrum, stage 3, your body budget is completely focused on one thing: self-protection.
When your brain is perceiving a threat, any call for empathy feels like an attack. And that instinctive response is, why should I care? There's simply no energy in the bank to spend on anyone else.
But then you get to the highest end, stage +3, and something pretty incredible happens. Empathy stops being just a feeling, and it becomes fuel for action. At this stage, people have enough resources in their budget that they can willingly and consciously choose to spend that energy to fight injustice, even when it is difficult and really costly to them.
Now, maybe the best part of all this science is the good news. Your capacity for empathy isn't some fixed trait. It is a resource that you can actually manage. So let's look at a few really practical ways that you can start making deposits into your body budget and increase your ability to connect with others.
First, the absolute basics. Make those deposits by prioritizing rest and sleep. Second, practice some mindfulness, just to get better at hearing your body's signals. Third, and this is a big one, intentionally expand your world. Engage with different perspectives. That makes the unfamiliar more familiar, and it literally lowers the biological cost of empathy. And finally, just use this framework as a lens. Ask yourself, hey, where am I on the map today?
At the end of the day, understanding this science connects our personal biology to our collective humanity. Real social justice, real change, it begins right here, with our willingness to manage our own energy so that we can care for others, especially when it's costly, not just when it's convenient.
So that leaves us with one final question to think about. Knowing that your empathy is a resource, what is one simple deposit you can consciously make to your own body budget today to build a greater capacity for connection tomorrow?